Okay. So in the last video I said I was in the void consciousness like the Buddhas for 25 years. I said I'm going to give you the key. Key to the void. How to transcend the void. Yep, I can do that. I said at the end of the last video, it's an act of love to stay in the void. Because you're not jumping into consciousness and dying over and over and over again from all that pain of jumbling around with the consciousness. Tumbling. No choice. You're a victim of the process of inertia of consciousness, back and forth, cause and effect. You've got no control. No one's got any control. You go back to when you were conceived. You had no control over that. The cells join your mum and dad. Split. Fetus, baby, pops out, little girl, little boy. Pure love gets overlaid by parents, belief systems, mental positions, attitudes, egos, the way they interpret reality, religion, philosophies, traditions. Given a name, Peter. Peter thinks Peter's that concept because Peter identifies with that projection, which talked about in the first couple of videos. So Peter always refers to Peter as himself, that label, but it's a concept. He thinks he's a concept. How can a concept do anything? How can a concept have any self? No self-nature. The self-nature comes from the identifier. Who is it that's identifying with the identification? So, I said in the last video that it's an act of love to stand on your own ground of your own being. Because you're outside of that victimhood. You're outside of the mind. The mind is the inertia, that constant refreshing of the perception. That's the ego, because the ego can't be killed. It comes into being every nanosecond with every change in perception, the data flow. Kill it, comes back. Click, unstoppable. Many yogis frustrated out of their minds by this process. You cannot kill the mind. You can't kill desire. You can't stop desire, because the desire to stop it is desire. You can't get rid of your will, because it takes your will to give it up. Here's the secret. The ego will never choose to give up its will. The ego will never choose to kill itself. The ego will never choose that, because it can't, because it's not conscious. When you choose, there's a reflection in consciousness that makes you think someone's choosing. It's just a reaction in consciousness to your choice. The ego doesn't choose. It reacts to consciousness. It is consciousness. The ego is consciousness. It's infinite. It's a constant change. The only certainty is change. Change is the ego. Simply. Okay, so within the mind, you can't get free of the mind. You have to get outside the mind, because when you react or act, the mind acts. It's impossible. I tried for 40 years. I tried all sorts of things, all sorts of paths, self-hypnosis, hundreds of different types of meditation. I read thousands of philosophy books. The mind. Inside the mind. The mind can't help itself, because the mind is reflection. It's like a hall of a hall of myriad mirrors. There's a book about that called The Mind Monkey. Chinese classic. Anyway, so consciousness is the mind. The will is not consciousness. It doesn't arise in consciousness. It's the conscious self. because of the identification with the I, me, it looks like your will is limited because you're identified with it, with the construct. We started in the first couple of videos, the causal construct, the reference to me, this defined self, this identifiable me, attributes. I'm a doctor, I'm a football supporter, I'm a man, I'm a human being. I'm a damaged individual. I've been so hurt, I'm in this massive pain. This is my story. I'm identifying myself as this damaged individual. Whatever I identify myself with or as, that's why I suffer, but we'll cover that later. So, we're going to go behind the I and the me to this emptiness, the void. Keys coming, the key to the void. I said, love chooses to use the will. That's the key. Okay, so it's not the ego that chooses to use the will. So it's not egotistical to love your being. It's not conceited. Conceited is to love the identified self. That's ego. To love yourself as this infinite awareness, that's self-realization. You practice changing your identity, your identification. Shiva Sutra says, first couple of sutras, it says, Shiva speaking, he says, by non-identification with me are you bound. Now, what they say the will is in the Shiva Sutra is the Icha Shakti, or the power of will in every being, the power to will. It's God present in us, called self-God, the infinite, the conscious absolute, whatever you want to call it. It's God. It's love. Okay. Love can't know itself, just like any other knowledge, without juxtaposition. The juxtaposition for love is the will. I will love. This is my will. My will as God is to love. God's will is to love. I love myself, said God. I love am myself. In the Hindu pantheon, in the Hindu religion, they say that love is the Shakti, or the mother goddess, or the mother energy, the life force, the Kundalini Shakti, love. Will and love, the union of will and love. Vishvagraha, immersion in God, that's what that means. Shiva and Shakti unite. They both disappear into oneness. It becomes the absolute consciousness from where they come. The awareness of awareness. That's the love affair between the two. So, the answer to the void is, the will is empty, and the void is empty. The juxtaposition. You can't find emptiness. Love is empty, you can't see it. You bloody well feel it though. You feel it with big fat spades. That's the bliss consciousness the yogis talk about. Satchitananda. Sat-chit-tananda. Sat is existence, chit is consciousness, and ananda is bliss. Existence, consciousness, bliss. Because you love the void as yourself. You love the absolute as yourself. You identify with the absolute, formless, infinite eternality of yourself. Deathless, free while alive. Jivan mukta, freedom while alive. Self-realization. Love the void as yourself. Don't identify. Ground in that. How to say that? It's unaffected by anything. It's the ground of reality. It's the final reality. It's the origin of being. It's the place where everything goes back into. When its quantas of energy, when its atomic half-life is finished, everything goes back into nothingness. Comes out of nothingness. Comes out of you. The whole cosmos exists in you. That's how it works. You're the source of being. The next video we'll talk about why there seems to be individuals and what it is that, start again, exactly what it is that's conscious in its being. That's what we'll talk about in the next video.